days around.
Hello and welcome to the Tottenham America channel. Today we'll be giving you our player ratings for Tottenham's 1-0 loss against AC Milan in the round of 16 of the UEFA Champions League. Starting off in goal with Fraser Forster coming in for the injured Hugo Lloris. I'm going to rate him a 6.5. Had nothing to do after the Brahim Diaz goal early on in the first 10 minutes. He had a quick fire, 2 or 3 saves before Brahim Diaz put in that diving header, which were quite decent saves. Especially the second one and the last one he made before Brahim Diaz put it into the back of the net. So Fraser Forster really had nothing to do after that. Going on in the match, our defense did really well, really protected their goal well, making sure that Fraser Forster had nothing to do, which is a very good thing. Next, we're going to move on to our first center back, Cristian Romero. I'm going to rate him a 6.75. Cristian Romero was pretty good today. I think he had a little bit of a tough time with Theo Hernandez on the right-hand side. I think in the first half, he was still adjusting and getting used to him. But in the second half, he dealt with him pretty well. And I think Romero was one of the more quieter defenders. I think Dier and Lenglet definitely had much more to do. That whole right side was kind of quiet today. Emerson, I think, was a little more active, but Romero, Kulusevski, they weren't as much in the game today. We weren't really going down that right side as much as the left side, especially in the first half and the first 20-30 minutes or so in the second half. So Cristian Romero, not a bad performance from him. Next, we're going to move on to Eric Dier. Eric Dier, I'm going to rate him a 6.75. Huge improvement, an absolutely huge improvement from his performance against Leicester City over the weekend. When he was just sitting back there, and when we needed him, when AC Milan broke, he was there. He did his job, just like how he's supposed to, which he exactly didn't do against Leicester City. Leicester City, he was coming too early for challenges, and then he was too reluctant to come in, and he was just like waiting off. Today he didn't do that. Today he challenged the AC Milan attackers. He knew when the right time to tackle was. He didn't go in too early. He didn't wait off. He didn't wait too long. So Dier, pretty good performance from him. Next, we're moving on to Clement Lenglet. I'm going to rate him a 7. A partial redeemment from his huge mistake against Man City when we lost 4-2. He linked up really well today with Perisic, put in some decent balls into the box. At times, though, it felt like we had no one in there, especially before we brought on our subs. We really only had 2 or 3 players in there. Son doesn't normally get inside the box. He's normally the one delivering crosses. And Lenglet is also the one delivering crosses when he's on. Lenglet and Perisic really did well together on that left-hand side. I think it could have been useful to put in Lenglet against Leicester City. Davies, I think, is more defensive. Lenglet could have done more attacking-wise, put in more balls. But again, it was our defense that caused us problems against Leicester. But one mistake I think Conte made today was bringing off Lenglet late in the game, like the 81st minute for Ben Davies, because I think we could have benefited off of Lenglet putting in those balls late in the game, and he's much more attacking than Davies, and he did pretty well today. Next, we're moving on to our right wing back, Emerson Royal. Emerson Royal was pretty good defensively today, did a lot of work defensively, not that much attacking-wise. Of course, like I said earlier, we weren't playing much attacking football down the right-hand side. More of it was coming down the left-hand side through Lenglet, Perisic, and Son. But we all know his defensive work rate is incredible, and he really showed that today. He's a 7 for me, and he's keeping up his consistency with his performances. So I don't really see Emerson dropping out to Pedro Porro for a while, unless if we're playing like Southampton. Then possibly Pedro Porro could have a start ahead of Emerson Royal, but I think right now Emerson's definitely keeping his spot. Pedro Porro is probably just going to work even harder because he knows he wants that spot ahead of Emerson. And that's the good thing about having 2 players challenging for a certain position, is that they're just going to keep competing with each other. And that really brings out the best in both of them, Pedro Porro and Emerson. I think Pedro Porro coming in, and even before he came on, Emerson knowing that we were looking for a new right wing back and that we would possibly sell him, really upped his game. And with all the pressure, not pressure, but like competition at right wing back, he's doing much, much better. And I don't think Pedro Porro will start over for a while. Next, we're going to move on to Ivan Perisic at left wing back. I'm also going to rate him a 7. He was also pretty good. Like I said earlier, he was linking up really well with Lenglet, made some good crosses, had some really good out-swinging corners. I know he had some in-swinging corners, didn't always work out well. Between Son and Ivan Perisic, I think both of them, normally the out-swinging corners work better for them than the in-swinging. In-swinging typically leads to it going straight into the hands of the keeper, which Perisic did have a couple good outswinging crosses from corners today, especially after Son went off, when he was able to take corners on the left-hand side of the pitch. But Perisic didn't make any mistakes defensively today. He was pretty solid defensively, which is pretty much his weakness most of the time. And attacking-wise, he also did well. So not a terrible performance from Perisic, not a superb one, but he did pretty well today. Next, we're moving on to our first midfielder, Matar Sarr. I'm going to rate him a 7.5. For me, he's tied man of the match with Oliver Skipp. He really ran that midfield today, especially defensively. We really saw what he could do. The first sight of that was in Crystal Palace when we played them and won 4-0 away at Selhurst Park. He came on as a sub, and we could really see what he could do. He did really well with Højbjerg in that midfield, and he really showed even more today. And I'm excited to see him playing with Højbjerg when he comes back from suspension, which he is going to play in the next leg in our Premier League matches. I think Sarr just about gets the nod over Skipp. I think just because Skipp is older, he's about 2 years older, but Sarr does have a little more experience, I would say. Well, Skipp has more experience, but Sarr is proven. He's gotten a lot. He started a lot more games, and he's been playing top level. He played a lot for Senegal and impressed in the World Cup for Senegal, which is a sign that really tells you he's already pretty much Premier League proven now. And having those good performances against Crystal Palace, and even didn't do too bad against Arsenal when we lost 2-0 at home. So, I think Sarr just gets a nod over Skipp. And we're going to move on to Oliver Skipp now. I'm going to rate him a 7.5. Same case as Sarr. He was really good, really running the midfield, especially in the second half and late first half. And they were really filled in the spots where Bentancur and Højbjerg would be. Maybe not attacking-wise, but defensively, they certainly did. And, I don't think it was a problem having Bissouma, Bentancur, and Højbjerg all out for this match, and they really lived up to those expectations that that Højbjerg and Bentancur would normally have. Really. Next, we're going to move on to Dejan Kulusevski, our right winger. I'm going to rate Dejan Kulusevski as 6. He wasn't at his best today, but he didn't do terrible. Really, a lot was coming through our left-hand side. He wasn't really in the action much. He did draw a lot of fouls from Milan players, and he used his physicality pretty well today. He was a lot more active in the first half rather than the second half. He hasn't really been having the best performances recently, but not the worst. So really, it's really a mid performance from him. The average, that's what he's really been having recently ever since coming back from injury. That injury definitely affected him. It's going to be a little bit until he gets to back to the top level, but he's back on track. He's starting to get back on track. Next, we're going to move on to Harry Kane, who was playing striker today and got really shut down by Simon Kjær. He really was isolated in an icebox, in a jail cell. He was really isolated up there, all alone with Simon Kjær just tugging on his shoulder, tugging on his leg, pulling on his leg. Simon Kjær, that's literally what he was doing to Kane today. Simon Kjær, probably the all-around man of the match, and he really shut Kane down today. Whenever he got the ball, Simon Kjær was always around him like a cat playing with a yarn ball. Kane, in this case, Kane was the yarn ball, and Simon Kjær was the cat, and Kane just got battered by him every single time, and Simon Kjær to do that against Harry Kane, one of the best strikers in the world. Simon Kjær did really well today to shut down Kane. Kane didn't do too bad. It was just like Simon Kjær being too good. So Kane, not a terrible performance from him. Next, we're moving on to our last player in the starting 11, Heung-min Son. He was definitely more active than Kane and Kulusevski. I'm going to rate him a 6.5. He was making some great dribbles, like he has been in recent matches, and he's starting to look more and more like his usual self. In the first half, we got a good number of free kicks outside the box, and he swung in some great balls. He also had some pretty good corners too. Some of them weren't great, especially the in-swinging ones, but the out-swinging ones were decent. Getting them into dangerous areas. Like I said earlier, for Perisic and Son, outswinging corners work better for both of them. And overall, Son is just step by step starting to look more like his usual self. I think the biggest step he took was his 2 goals against Preston, and now he's making those Son-like dribbles that he always makes, and he's getting back to his best. Next, we're going to move on to our last player that we're going to rate, and he was a substitute today. It was Richarlison. I'm going to rate him a 6.75. I think it was really good today just because of the amount of pressure he put on the Milan defenders. He was so energetic too, and he had a lot of urgency, alertness from exactly when he came on. So Richarlison, this is pretty much the first time we've seen him play in a very long time. So I'm happy to see him play. He was our Champions League hero. He scored 2 for us in our first game of the Champions League this season against Marseille, where he's got a brace laid on to get us the win 2-0 against Marseille. And there's definitely more to come from him. Really battered by injuries this season, so we really haven't gotten to use him to his full power. But next season and this end of the season, this last stretch of the season, I hope we will see Richarlison more, especially in the FA Cup too. And I hope he can start banging in some goals and assists and goal involvements. But that is it for our player ratings of Tottenham's 1-0 loss against AC Milan in the round of 16 of the UEFA Champions League. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on the match and rate the players and player ratings. Hit the like button and subscribe. And until next time, come on you Spurs!